Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Williamson at Williamson NFL. You probably know that by now. Thanks for tuning in. Viewership keeps spiking and spiking. I'm recording this Tuesday evening, so you're probably listening to it on Wednesday. So happy Draft Day Eve to you and to all of yours, and to all a good night. Tuesday today for my world. Omar and Tomlin both spoke to the media. They didn't say a ton. I'm not going to look too much into that. I kind of thought I would do this show based off that, but there's just not enough. And instead, I want to do a final mailbag going into the draft. And you guys flooded me with questions as always. Good questions. So let's just dig right in. Eli Krebs, good friend of the show, says Tomlin made the comment about smoke regarding who they bring in on pre-draft visits. Stewart comes to mind immediately with this. However, part of me wonders if the late visit of Sanders is also smoke. Your thoughts? I'll get to Sanders in a minute, but the two that really stood out to me as smoke are Stewart, as you mentioned, and Amuari, the safety. And if you listened to a show before, two ago, which was a really popular one about Raz scores and Omar's history, well, those two are like the Raz kings. So I'm sure Omar and the organization are going, well, people are catching on that we love guys with great relative athletic scores. So let's bring in the best two, even though we're not in those positions and people might think we're going to take them and maybe trade ahead of us to grab them if they're going to get them, and we're happy they fall off the board. Great. That adds up. That's good gamesmanship. That's worth one of your two of your 30 visits. I also think some of the quarterback stuff has to be, namely Sanders. But I also think with quarterbacks, it's a little different. Now, hypothetically, let's say you don't really like Sanders, but you are interested. There's definitely interest. That's a broad word. Dart, Milroe, Shuck, Shador. There's definitely interest. But maybe you're playing against Shador in Cleveland twice a year. Wouldn't you want to know what makes him tick? Or, what his personality type is? Or you're certainly going to play against him at some point in his career. Or after his rookie year or rookie contract, like a Trubisky or somebody like this, maybe you're interested in adding him. All the quarterback homework you can do in the world, the better, because they're super important. You want to get inside their head. And the other thing, and I've told you guys this too, a lot of these 30 visits, not a lot, but some, more than just a few, you meet with them, you have your doubts, then you meet with them, they leave, and you cross them off the board and say, yep, that's not who I want. I mean, some of them is negative. Not that the visit's terrible or they're starting a food fight in your cafeteria or something stupid. It's just, nope, that's not what we want. I just wanted to be sure. Yep, it's not what I want. So I definitely think some of the quarterback stuff is real interest in drafting. Some of it is sort of smokescreen / information gathering. Some of it is, all of it is let's find out more. And then you go from there. Gasper asks, regarding the now unlikely Pickens trade, and that's something they said in the press conference today too, that they're not really interested in trading him, and I believe that. Do you think the, quote, talented wide receiver who wore out his welcome in Pittsburgh brand is so damaged by now that no team would want to trade for him? I don't know about that. Slightly, maybe. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that he is high maintenance, to be kind, or a head case, or immature, or whatever. And that the Steelers and Tomlin, to his credit, handled those personalities better than maybe Joe Average NFL coach. And it might be harder on his next team to deal with him than it is on this team. But I also think deep down they don't want to trade him or any forced to do that soon, that they want to see an offense with Pickens and Metcalf and how much room that can open up for the run game and how difficult that could be to play against. And my hunch is, like every player, if someone blew their doors away with an offer, they would strongly consider it. But does it do you that much good to trade Pickens for a late second round pick to the Chiefs or Bills or whoever, some good team, and then take Enumanor or Jack Besh and get worse at the position, but younger and more cost effective, but you're worse on game day? And deep down, my hunch is if he's been shopped, and I'm sure there's been talks, that the compensation that other teams are talking about is probably just lower than they have any interest in dealing with them. That there's, and that would add up to me too. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds at everything college basketball to $200,000 bracket contests, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. Also, obviously, NHL, NBA playoffs, all that good stuff. From the Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, I lumped 3 questions together that are all pretty similar, and I'll kind of go one by one on them, but they do all kind of circle around the same idea. Sevi43 asks, would it be a good 4th or 5th round pick to pick up Ty Robinson, defensive end, defensive tackle type from Nebraska? Yes, he has been a favorite of mine from step 1. He is very disruptive. He's very hard to play against. I don't think he'll last till the 5th round. I think he's more of a 3rd, 4th rather than a 4th, 5th. He also just so happens tested so well that he is one of the 9 out of 10 RAS score or better defensive linemen in this draft. Again, 2 podcasts ago, I addressed this heavily, which really puts him in the Steelers' wheelhouse, in my opinion. So, yes, I think he would be a wonderful addition. More from him in a minute here, because I said there's a lot of these are similar. Hi, Matt. Terry Shipman asks, hi, Matt. If the Steelers trade back to the late 20s or early 30s and the big 3 defensive tackles are gone, I assume that would be, we're on the same page, that that's Grant, Nolan, and Harmon. How comfortable are you with Williams from Ohio State there? Pair him with Robinson from Nebraska in 3 or 4, just like I said. I'll take it. I would too. Again, because you'd be getting nice compensation. Williams is a true nose. Robinson is much more of a 3-4 end, so they're different. You would have a nice wealth of picks that you get going into the 30s. Williams would definitely be a target for me there. You could still keep I'm going D-line, but unfortunately the top 3 are gone. And the other name I'd throw out there is my immediate targets would be either Tyleik Williams, as you mentioned, who's more nosier, or Alexander from Toledo, who I think is going to go pretty high. And he's also a high RAS guy that they had in for a visit. I bet they love Alexander. And if you get to somewhere from 30 to 36 with your first pick, which is a pretty far jump, which means you're getting a future 2nd or 3rd this year in addition to that. I mean, you're getting quite a bit. And you start your draft with Tyleik Williams or Alexander, I think you're in a good place. I mean, maybe you don't have the next, Hall of Famer, but you got a really quality prospect, and you're going to have a lot of other things to make your draft. And then you mix in a Robinson in the 3rd or 4th round. Yeah, you still did really good work on your D-line. Last one along those lines. Brad Prentice asked, does Tomlin's comment about nose tackles going the way of the fullback / dinosaur disqualify Kenneth Grant? Or can Grant be more than a traditional nose? Love the shows, by the way. When he says that, I think people immediately think nose tackles are obsolete. No, a lot of teams align someone in a nose tackle, a head up or a one technique. There's a lot of nose tackle alignments still all across the league, whether you're running 3-4 or not. But I do think run stuffing only noses certainly aren't for everyone, and including the Steelers aren't coveted and are really hard to use and can only really be a 10 to 15 snap a game guy. So that does not eliminate, but really devalues some of these guys. Like Phillips from Maryland's a player I really, really like. And I think he could develop some pass rush. Really powerful, wrestler, tough, 6'1". But he is a run stuffer all day long. I like the player a ton, but you're going to get a pretty good deal on him because he has like no sacks at the college level and very little push. Now, I don't think Grant is that player. I think Grant has a lot more pass rush than the traditional stump nose tackle type. And I also think Grant, if he were a Steeler, would align probably not head up over an offensive tackle, but a 4-eye, an inside shade on the inside shoulder of the tackle, all the way across the line of scrimmage, including nose, including over a guard. So I think he'd be much more than just plug him over the center, and that's all he is. So no, I don't think it disqualifies him. But I also when he says the fullback comparison, do realize while a fullback isn't for every team, there are UStat checks and Ricards, and there's probably 8 teams or so that still use a fullback. You just get a better deal on them because no one else is using them. 2 more here. Nothing in life is free 72. Would you deal next year's second for Kirk Cousins? Absolutely not. So there has been some Cousins news, which I do believe that Atlanta is still fielding trades for him. He has a no trade clause that he said he will waive after the draft or after the first round of the draft, because I don't think he wants to go to a team that just drafted a guy in the first round like he did with Atlanta and Penix last year. And apparently what Schefter's saying is Atlanta wants the new team to pick up $20 million of the guaranteed money, where he mentioned the Vikings and the Steelers, where he said the other teams, the trading for Cousins teams, are more interested in picking up $10 million of the guaranteed money of his huge contract, not 20. So I don't think draft pick, where I'm going with this, nothing in life is free 72, is I think Rodgers is still a top priority. Sure. But I think Cousins is your fallback plan, and not a bad one. But I think he would be way cheaper than next year's second. That's my point, is I think this is more about money than it is draft pick compensation, which makes him pretty attractive. I mean, something like this could happen after the draft. I think it's next year's 5th or 6th, and he gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper the more money you pick up. So you're like, okay, I will pick up the $20 million, but I'll only give you a 7th. All right, I'll only pick up $10 million, but I'll give you a 5th. I think it's something like a second is way off the board. All right, last one, Steelers Blitz 21. Omar Khan said the pre-draft press conference that they will determine 21 players they are comfortable drafting that fit the 2024 Steelers. Is that being short-sighted, or am I looking too far into it? No, this is something I talk about on the drive with Dale a lot, and I think it's something I urge all of you to do, is if you build, because they picked 21, build your Steelers-only board of your top 21 players. That 15 through 21 is pretty bad. Now, you'll never get there, though. I mean, I've talked about this a lot. So there's a bunch of offensive linemen that would not be in your top 21. Almost all the first-round edge guys wouldn't be. I'm like, Abdul Carter might be. Of course he won't be there. But if you build your only Steelers 21, like you might not have either safety on there. You might not have Shamar Stewart. You might not have certainly Campbell, the linebacker. You might not have tight ends. So all of a sudden you're digging deep to get to 21. But the reality is you're going to get player 8, 9, 10, 11. But at least you have to do the exercise of, if the worst 20 players fell off the board, no offensive linemen get drafted in the top 20, no edge rushers get drafted in the top 20, and I have to take this guy at 21. Worst case scenario. And frankly, it might be somebody that goes deep in the second round. Alfred Collins, or I don't know. What do? Well, you take them. You know, if the worst 20 guys that could fall off the board, I have to take one at 21. I can't get out. This is what I would do. Okay, so you have to do that exercise as a front office. Where this also comes into play is trading down. So 20 picks are made, and 10 of your top 21 are gone because edge rusher's gone, blah, 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 blah. Offensive tackles are gone that aren't in your top 21, and maybe one or two of those guys are. Then you're going, I can still trade down 11 spots and get my 21st player. You following? And chances are you could probably trade down 20 spots and get your 11th guy with 10 off the board. You know what I mean? Because, again, players not in your top 21 are regularly going to get drafted. But when you say comfortable, that's a bit of a stretch. You're not happy about it. I mean, you'd hate if the worst 20 got picked and you have to take your 21st guy. But if you trade it all the way down to 40 and you get your 21st guy, which is very possible, you'd be comfortable with that if you give me enough compensation. You know what I'm saying? But I do urge you guys, and it's hard, that if you're on the clock, who's your first pick? Okay, it's easy. I'm taking Cam Ward. All right. What if you're second and you're the Steelers only? All right, I'm taking Hunter. Cool. But when you get to about your 10th guy, I mean, like, you might have Walter Nolan 7th, and you might end up getting him at 21. You know what I mean? When you only do your Steelers only 21, it's very eye-opening. And frankly, you're going to get like the 10th best guy at 21. All right, everyone. I hope that made sense. I don't explain that quite as well as I wish I would, but I think you get it. All right, everyone. I might not record one tomorrow because by the time you listen to it, the draft might be rolling around. Maybe something happens. Maybe I could even whip up my Steelers 21. We'll see. All right, take care.